Good evening. I'm Ryan Brown, Chair of the Libertarian Party of North Carolina. I want to thank you for being here with me tonight. Tonight, we are here to offer a different perspective, one that cuts through the noise of the last two speeches you just heard by the Democrats and the Republicans, with the same old polished promises and finger pointing. You can switch the scripts and no one would notice a difference. Instead, let's talk about what's really happening in our state and our nation. Let's talk about the failures, the hypocrisy, and the solutions neither of these parties will touch. Most importantly, let's talk about hope, real hope for a future where people, not politics, comes first. First, let's address the elephant in the room, pun intended. The Republicans' failure on the budgetary continuing resolution. In Washington, our GOP leaders had a chance to stand for fiscal responsibility, to demand transparency and restraint in a bloated federal budget. Instead, they caved like they always do. True to form, our U.S. Senators Tom Tillis and Ted Budd are expected to vote for the spending bill, virtually a carbon copy of Biden's spending bill from the last year. Tom Tillis and Ted Budd represent the interests of big government and big government spending. The numbers reflect votes that expand government overreach, erode privacy, and prop up corporate welfare. If they truly valued liberty, they'd reject warrantless surveillance, end crony handouts, and stop the war on our rights. Instead, they're playing the same old Washington game. We deserve better. Our new Democratic Attorney General, Jeff Jackson, voted for the reauthorization of FISA 702, a law that lets the feds spy on your calls, emails, and texts without a warrant. He's all for government intrusion when it suits him. Yet the so-called straight shooter is conveniently silent on the Act Blue money laundering scandal right here in North Carolina. Like his predecessor, Josh Stein, reports have surfaced of suspicious donations funneled through the Democrat fundraising platform, potentially millions in untraceable cash influencing our elections. Where's the outrage? Where's the investigation? It seems like his principles bend when it's his party on the line. That's not integrity. That's fraud. If Governor Stein is serious about protecting law enforcement officers, then it's time for him to publicly support real body camera footage reform. We pay for the body cameras to see how our public safety is handled. Let's make that information public. I've seen firsthand when police abuse citizens, they are protected because it's impossible to release the body camera footage. We need to fix this problem. If he's serious about tackling the opioid epidemic, then let's end the costly, violent, and destructive war on drugs. The war on drugs has not only failed, but it's led to the largest attack on our civil liberties in decades. And it has been going on for decades. Let's not escalate the war on drugs in North Carolina. Opiates are a problem because government supported their corporate donors for decades. Turning victims into criminals and empowering drug lords is not the way to solve the problem. We must solve it without creating the incentives for it to continue going on. We have two parties that love to tell you about how important democracy is, but then work as hard as they can to disenfranchise anyone who doesn't support them. Beyond partisan gerrymandering at state and local levels, absurd lead times for our election, ballot harvesting, unclear voter ID rules, which are being challenged right now, and all of the other games that Uniparty tries to play and rig the favor of the North Carolina Uniparty. North Carolina has the dubious distinction of owning the only non-certified race in the country 4 months and 7 days after the election ended. This was completely avoidable. The Board of Elections is strictly partisan, despite our state having more unaffiliated voters than Republicans or Democrats. In fact, just a few short years ago, Roy Cooper went to court to make sure it stayed that way. Tonight, I'm calling on the legislature to make a bold move that reflects the population of North Carolina and changes this structure. It's time to put a libertarian on the Board of Elections and to add at least 3 unaffiliated representatives. We need to restore confidence in the Board of Elections and have elections that people can trust. The fight over education has gone on in North Carolina for decades. from suing to prevent busing children to decades of lawsuits with Leandro. The only two things that have remained constant are partisan bickering and declining education outcomes for all children. We have wide disparities where some students receive a wonderful education and others are able to graduate without being able to read. The teachers' union has undue influence in bloated budgets, top-heavy administration, ensure that our state remains a financial tar pits where students don't see much benefit from the vast sums of money that we spend on our education. Republican voucher programs have been widely popular. The funding was not adequately considered, and the government continues to pick winners and losers. Meanwhile, Democrats, true to form, just demand more money be thrown at a broken system, now calling for community colleges to be paid for free, which would ensure another layer of education to fail the people who need it the most. When everyone has an associate's degree, your associate's degree doesn't differentiate you from others. This just leads to more degree inflation. We have to have people who understand these issues and are serious about the well-being of our students in places that are able, or in places where they're able to communicate this. I have a question for you, Governor Stein. When you say free, where do you think that money comes from? Government has been in charge of education for decades. It hasn't worked. And throwing more money that comes from the taxpayers at the issue is not going to solve it. No amount of redistribution is going to solve the education system. We have to have a system that is based on incentives that incentivizes efficiency in learning. We can't have a system run by the government that has the sole purpose of sustaining itself and getting more funding. The Libertarian Party has a different way, where all students can access the quality education in a safe learning environment, where things like cell phone usage and mental health and bullying are solved by incentive structures. They are instead sure to fail when the government is running them. In a private system, there are incentives to make sure that everyone there has the goal of learning. Right now, people are required by law to go to school, and it doesn't matter if they want to be there. It doesn't matter if they're intent on learning. It doesn't matter if they are disrupting other people. They have to be there, and our teachers are powerless to do anything. Further, it's time to remove draconian occupational licensing laws and zoning restrictions that stifle our economy. They increase the cost of transportation, and they prevent entrepreneurship and hinder generational wealth building. Governor Stein claims to support small business and be concerned about housing costs, but his policy choices suggest otherwise. We are told that too many parents can't afford work, but the reality is the policy has created that situation. If removing red tape is good now, it's good all the time. We call for a dramatic reduction with a chainsaw, not a scalpel, in the regulatory environment, including occupational licensing laws, zoning restrictions, getting rid of both of those, and more. They're choking small business and they're pricing North Carolinians out of business opportunities or their homes. Finally, let's talk about a storm that's still raging in our state, the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Governor Roy Cooper botched the recovery effort in an almost incomprehensible fashion, and Josh Stein appears primed to continue that legacy, despite tonight's lip service. Helene hit us hard, over 100 dead, $60 billion in damages, but their response was virtually non-existent in many places. Governor Stein bragged about the accomplishments of government workers, and we are thankful for their contributions. But the massive effort of volunteers and concerned citizens has dwarfed the state response, where organizations like FEMA were seemingly more concerned with who you voted for than how they could help the people on the ground who needed it. We don't think you should be paying taxes, but if you must, we demand that you get the services you were promised. In particular, we call on the legislature to act immediately and pass legislation removing property taxes from the people who lost everything in Western North Carolina. Governor Stein said the people need a hand up, not the handout. First, let's get the government boot off their neck. They shouldn't be having to pay for something that was destroyed. Of course, this isn't new. It's a rerun of 8 years ago when Hurricane Matthew and Florence slammed into eastern North Carolina. Cooper's Office of Recovery and Resiliency botched that job so badly they ran out of money, leaving families in limbo. Now Stein is doubling down with no sense of irony, creating a new office, Grow NC, that's already drowning in bureaucracy. Western North Carolinians need homes, roads, and hope, not more promises from Raleigh that wash away with the next rain. Both parties point fingers, but neither delivered. It's a failure of leadership that keeps punishing the people. We need to get the government off the neck of the people in Western North Carolina. This includes state and local governments. But there's good news. There's a way forward, and it starts with the Libertarian Party of North Carolina. We trust you, the individual, the dreamer, the businessman, the doer, to live your life without a nanny state or a corporate puppet pulling strings. We are the only party that has your back, the back of the individual. We are the only party that actually cares about you and trusts you to live your life. Keep your earnings and make your choices without a bureaucrat breathing down your neck. Imagine a North Carolina where your rights aren't up for debate, where you're free to speak without having to be worried about getting deported. Work, defend yourself, and live as you see fit. Imagine a government that exists to protect and not plunder. Governor Stein talked a lot about investment tonight. Government doesn't invest. It takes from the people and it redistributes. It chooses winners and losers. The Libertarian Party of North Carolina believes in the individual. That's our vision. We've been fighting for it since day one. End the drug war, welcoming peaceful immigrants, defending the absolute right to self-defense. We know what the Second Amendment is. It's to prevent tyranny. And we believe in slashing the chains of overregulation. We believe in North Carolina. And we believe in the people of this state. We don't care about power grabs or photo ops. We care about people. You, your family, and your future. The Democrats will tell you the state can solve anything. Republicans will claim they're your saviors while selling out behind closed doors. But libertarians know the truth. The power lies with you. Join us. Stand with us. Together, we can build a state where innovation thrives, justice reigns, and liberty isn't just a word. It's a way of life. This isn't a pipe dream. It's a movement. Across North Carolina, people are waking up, rejecting the tired old script and choosing freedom. Be a part of it. We start local, we focus local, and we change local. And then the people will see what libertarianism is all about. And then we change the state. But it starts with you, and it focuses on you, the individual. Visit lpnc.org and sign up. Let's make history together. This year, there's probably a local election where you live. You can run and you can make a difference. You can make a difference, and we can celebrate the wins locally. Because in the end, it's not about red, it's not about blue, it's about you. And right now, we can make a difference in the state. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and let's go to work.